Inside Pelican Bay. The camera pans over the fog-choked coast of Northern California. Waves crash against jagged rocks. The wind howls through redwood trees that seem older than time itself. And then, rising from the mist like a concrete monster, you see it. A fortress. Isolated. Silent. Deadly. This is Pelican Bay State Prison, California's most notorious maximum security facility. A place designed to swallow men whole and never let them go. For decades, Pelican Bay has been whispered about in fear, not just by inmates, but by guards, families, and entire communities. It's the prison that houses the worst of the worst. Killers, gang leaders, and men who have been declared too dangerous to live among other prisoners. But behind the 18-foot-high concrete walls and electrified fences lies more than just cells and razor wire. Pelican Bay is a world of power, violence, silence, and survival, a place where every glance, every step, every word can determine whether you live or die. And tonight, we're going inside. Pelican Bay wasn't built like other prisons. In the late 1980s, California faced a crisis. Gangs like the Aryan Brotherhood, the Mexican Mafia, and the Black Guerrilla family had turned the state's prisons into battlefields. Murders, riots, and bloody turf wars erupted behind bars with terrifying frequency. Wardens couldn't control them. Guards were outnumbered and outgunned. The solution? Build a prison that could break the gang's grip once and for all. Construction began on the edge of Crescent City, near the Oregon border. Surrounded by wilderness and battered by Pacific storms, the site was chosen for its remoteness. If men tried to escape, they would face miles of forest, freezing seas, and near certain death. In 1989, Pelican Bay State Prison opened its gates. Its design was chilling in its precision, a split facility with two very different faces. The general population, GP, a traditional prison yard with cell blocks, exercise yards, and work programs. The SHU, Security Housing Unit, a world of total isolation, known as the SHU, pronounced SHU. This was Pelican Bay's beating heart, and its darkest secret. The SHU was unlike anything California had ever seen. 1,056 windowless cells, each one an 8x10 concrete box. Inmates lived alone. They had no view of the outside world, no contact with other prisoners. Meals were pushed through slots in steel doors. Exercise meant pacing in a barren concrete pen, nicknamed dog runs. The goal was simple: break the gangs. By locking away the leaders in solitary confinement, the state hoped to cut off communication, dismantle hierarchies, and stop the bloodshed. But as history would soon show, Pelican Bay didn't just contain violence. It created it. Step inside Pelican Bay, and the first thing you feel is the silence. Not peace, but a suffocating, oppressive quiet. Every sound echoes. Every step on the concrete floor feels heavy, like you're walking inside a tomb. Inmates who arrive at Pelican Bay know immediately, this isn't just another prison. The general population yard is a place of tension. Tattoos tell stories of allegiance. Blue for Sureños, red for Norteños, swastikas for Aryan Brotherhood, black fists for rival groups. Every movement is watched, every friendship dissected, every wrong step punished. For new arrivals, survival is everything. A single handshake can decide your fate. Refuse to join a gang, and you're marked as weak. Join the wrong one, and you may not live to see another week. Guards know this. They patrol the yards with rifles, always ready. But it's in the SHU where time itself becomes a weapon. Imagine this. You wake up every day in the same concrete box. No sunlight, no faces, just gray walls and your own thoughts. You eat alone. You sleep alone. You talk to no one but yourself. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years, and years into decades. Some men break. They scream at night. They cut themselves just to feel something. Others become colder, harder, more dangerous. And yet, even locked away, Pelican Bay's inmates found ways to keep the gangs alive. From coded letters to secret signals scratched into the floor, from whispers during medical visits to smuggling notes hidden in legal papers, the SHU became a headquarters for organized crime. Orders flowed in and out. Murders were planned from solitary. Drug empires were managed from inside 8x10 concrete cells. Pelican Bay was meant to end the gang's control. Instead, it turned into their command center. The year was 2000. On a cold, gray morning, the alarm sounded on Pelican Bay's B-yard. Guards watched in horror as dozens of inmates suddenly swarmed. Shanks flashed. Blood poured. Within minutes, the ground was littered with bodies. It was a gang riot, one of the deadliest in Pelican Bay's history. Guards fired warning shots. Tear gas filled the air. But the violence didn't stop. Men stabbed each other with makeshift blades carved from toothbrushes and melted plastic. Others beat rivals with weights stolen from the yard's gym. When it was finally over, more than a dozen men were bleeding on the concrete. Some never got back up. This was Pelican Bay's reality, a powder keg that could explode at any moment. And every riot, every stabbing, every murder traced back to one truth: the gangs were still in control. Inside Pelican Bay, survival isn't guaranteed by strength alone. It's dictated by rules that don't exist in any prison handbook. They're the unwritten laws, carved into the culture by decades of violence and control. Rule number 1. Race comes first. In Pelican Bay, racial divisions are absolute. The yard isn't one community, it's a map, carefully divided along ethnic lines. Whites stick with whites, blacks with blacks. Latinos are split between norteños and sureños, depending on their regional roots in California. Asians have their own alliances. The rules are enforced with deadly seriousness. Eat with the wrong group, walk across the wrong line, even share a cigarette with the wrong man, and you've signed your own death warrant. Rule number 2. Blood must be answered with blood. Retaliation isn't optional. If a member of your race is attacked, you're expected to respond. Even if it means sacrificing your own life, even if you've got just weeks left before parole. To ignore a blood debt is to break the chain, and in Pelican Bay, that chain is stronger than any steel bars. Rule number 3. Silence is power. You don't talk to guards. You don't snitch. You don't cry. The moment you show weakness, you're finished. In the SHU, silence is weaponized. Orders are given with a glance, alliances sealed with nothing more than a nod. Guards call it the invisible communication. It's how men with no contact still manage to run entire criminal empires. And rule number 4, the gang decides. Always. At Pelican Bay, gangs aren't just about violence. They're governments within the prison. Every move, from who eats where to who lives and who dies, runs through them. Membership means loyalty until death. Refusing orders means punishment worse than death: torture, humiliation, erasure. These rules keep the prison in balance, a fragile, bloody balance that can tip at any second. But they also mean that Pelican Bay isn't truly run by the wardens or the guards. It's run by the inmates themselves. To work at Pelican Bay is to walk a razor's edge. For guards, the prison is a constant battle between control and chaos. Officially, they're the authority. But in practice, they know they're outnumbered and outmaneuvered by men who have spent their lives learning how to manipulate, deceive, and intimidate. Every shift begins with the same ritual. Strap on the vest, holster the baton, check the radios, and then step into a place where eyes are always watching. Guards feel it, the way inmates memorize their routines, their weaknesses, even their family names. It isn't just about physical danger. The psychological warfare is relentless. Some inmates hurl insults all day, trying to crack a guard's composure. Others try to bribe, offering information, favors, or even money to look the other way. And some use fear, sending word that if a guard doesn't comply, their loved ones on the outside could pay the price. Former correctional officers have admitted that Pelican Bay changes you. One described it as walking into hell every morning and hoping you come back with your soul intact. Another confessed that after years inside, he could no longer sleep without medication, his dreams filled with the echo of slamming steel doors. But perhaps the hardest part for guards is this. They're not just keeping men locked up. They're keeping men who are locked in forever. Many Pelican Bay inmates will never walk free. They have nothing to lose. And a man with nothing to lose is the most dangerous kind of enemy. Over the decades, Pelican Bay has housed some of the most feared criminals in American history. Names that strike terror outside the walls become legends inside them. One such figure was Todd Ashker, a member of the Aryan Brotherhood, and one of the leaders behind the infamous hunger strikes of the 2010s. Ashker wasn't just a gang soldier, he was a strategist, a man who challenged the very concept of solitary confinement in courtrooms and in the public eye. Then there was Cornelius "Corny" Tate, linked to the Black Guerrilla family, a prison gang with deep ties to Revolution-era radical groups. Tate was known not just for violence, but for ideology, pushing a narrative that turned prison politics into something bigger than just turf wars. Pelican Bay also became home to countless unnamed men, many of them leaders of smaller cliques or drug networks. Some were shot callers who managed multi-million-dollar criminal enterprises from inside their cells. Others were lifers who simply became monsters of survival, living decades in the SHU without losing their grip on reality. Each name added to Pelican Bay's legend. Each story reminded the world that this wasn't just a prison, it was a vault of nightmares. If Pelican Bay breaks the body, the SHU breaks the mind. Psychologists who studied inmates in solitary confinement here described patterns that bordered on horror. Men lost their sense of time. Some hallucinated, claiming to see faces in the concrete or hear voices in the hum of the ventilation system. Others developed severe paranoia, convinced the guards were poisoning their food or implanting thoughts in their heads. In some cases, inmates mutilated themselves, cutting, swallowing metal, banging their heads against walls until they collapsed in blood. Suicide attempts skyrocketed. Some succeeded. And yet, others adapted in terrifying ways. They became colder, more disciplined. They used the endless silence to sharpen their minds, write books, memorize law, or refine the art of command. For these men, solitary didn't break them. It forged them into something even more dangerous. The world outside debated whether such confinement was torture. Inside Pelican Bay, that debate didn't matter. The men living it knew the truth. Solitary was a war on the human spirit. Pelican Bay isn't just a prison. It's a mirror, showing us what happens when control meets chaos, when power is tested by desperation, and when survival becomes the only law. Behind those concrete walls are stories we may never fully understand, but one thing is certain. Pelican Bay is a place that changes everyone who enters, and few ever leave the same. If you found this deep dive eye-opening, make sure to hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more untold stories from inside the world's most dangerous prisons, don't forget to turn on notifications, because this is just the beginning.